Well, hello, everybody. I'm Tina Olivero, your host of the OGM live stream podcast. You're here for another exciting episode today of Everything Energy. And I have a super interesting guest here with us joining us with this show today, Bart Biebuyck, who is the CEO of Green Energy Park. And that company is so interesting. They're at the forefront of renewable energy. It's actually a revolution that's happening. And Bart has a 20-year, believe it or not, history and career in hydrogen. So he's here to join us, share his knowledge, information, get us informed and educated, and tell us about the exciting things that they're doing at the Green Energy Park. So Bart, it's such a pleasure to have you here on the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tina, for having me. And it's also a pleasure and honor for me of being on your show. And I'm looking forward for the discussion. And thanks also for giving Green Energy Park the opportunity to talk a little bit also what we are doing and how we're going to change the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, someone like you with 20 years of experience already in hydrogen, for most of us, we're just getting going. So you're a wealth of information. Let's start there. Can you take us back to when your career began in hydrogen and how it evolved to where it is today, leading up to the park itself?
Definitely. I mean, I started my career actually more than 20 years ago at Toyota. And a lot of people know that Toyota has actually built the first hydrogen car. And actually, this is where I got in touch with the hydrogen because I was part of the design team working on this hydrogen and fuel cell car. And actually, you can see here behind me, this is the car that I have been building, and also the hydrogen refueling station. Because when we had designed the car the Mirai, then of course we needed also hydrogen refueling stations. So we had to build also the first hydrogen refueling station then in Europe. That was more than 10 years ago. That was quite of a challenge at that time. No legislation. I went to the authorities. I'm going to build a hydrogen refueling station. We're like, what is hydrogen? That was the first question of the authorities. So you really have to start from scratch, really, and educate a lot of people. I mean, I have been educating people all my life on hydrogen because each time you take a step forward, you need to start educating people. Yeah. And so, yes, then I built this hydrogen refueling station as well. And then after designing the Mirai and then building the first hydrogen fueling station, I moved to the European Commission. And the reason why I moved to the European Commission was actually I was convinced, and now it sounds very normal, but that Toyota alone could not change the world or could not put hydrogen much more at the forefront. And we needed to take it on a higher level, and which is basically in Europe, it's the European Commission, of course. And right. So there I joined the Commission. I was actually the head of the biggest hydrogen and fuel cell research program in the world. I mean, we financed more than 1,100 companies, more than 360 research projects. We spent 2.4 billion euro, more or less, in all those projects. And so I did that for 7 years. And so I saw everything in the field of energy, for hydrogen, and the transportation, safety, rules and regulations, everything. I was actually the inventor of the Hydrogen Valleys concept in 2016. I created also recently the European Hydrogen Bank idea. So yeah, a lot of work I did and the Commission. And last year I decided to leave the Commission and actually to start my own challenge and start up the Green Energy Park. And the reason for that was that I saw when I was at the Commission a lot of developers coming by with their beautiful projects, PowerPoints and renderings and so on, but a very few shovels actually in the ground. And one of the reasons is that a lot of FIDs, final investment decisions, are being postponed, delayed, cancelled, and so on. Right. And so I wanted to show now with the Green Energy Park that basically the hydrogen economy is a viable economy. And I found all the right ingredients, in my opinion, now to make it happen.
So interesting. And that's actually how we ended up in hydrogen as well. And like as a publisher, I think we now get like 300 press releases a day of people with new innovation, new ideas. And it's like a tidal wave of great minds that are inventing new solutions for sustainable energy, particularly in hydrogen. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about there. And to see all of that, all of those ideas and not have it come to fruition in reality is super frustrating because hydrogen is the future.
Yes, hydrogen is definitely future, but I said also hydrogen is now
Yes,
already,
yeah.
because there are already sustainable business cases already
Mhm.
today to be found in the market. So it is not only future.
Yes, for sure. So tell us about the Green Energy Park. How is it architected, the infrastructure? How do people get involved with it? What's happening and what are some of the interesting projects emerging?
So, well, the Green Energy Park, I mean, started, of course, with me trying to find the best location on the globe to produce hydrogen, because there are so many locations now saying we're going to be a hydrogen valley, hydrogen, whatever. And
Yeah,
so, but actually, you need to find, I mean, I created a list where with checking points on what is actually the best location, what are the points that a good location has to fulfill. And
yes,
so, really, I went to India, went to the US, went to many. I've talked to a lot of African countries and so on. But finally, I ended up in Brazil. And
right.
so, because of various reasons, we can come to that later. But I believe that this ticked actually all the boxes. And so
Uh-huh.
the Green Energy Park, I mean, when I identified all this, I said, okay, I need to have partners with me in my company that also bring complementary competencies that I don't necessarily have. And so
Yes,
that's why I went to see mainly to the looking to the molecule world, because building, let's say, hydrogen, and then we're going to use ammonia as a carrier, you
yeah,
need to have specialists who knows how to deal with hydrogen, with gases. So, and that's where I looked at companies that are used to LNG, working with LNG, so who are building LNG terminals, ammonia terminals, and that's where I end up with a company, Gasfin, in Germany, which basically has built a lot of LNG terminals and ammonia terminals, and they have all the health and safety regulations. They built the tanks and all these things. So they had all the process engineers, the tank engineers, the piping engineers with them. And then, of course, you need to have somebody who's built it as well, who has EPC experience. So that's why I found an EPC contractor who built a lot of LNG, let's say, infrastructure in the Baltics, and that's quite a harsh environment to build over there. And so basically, he also wanted to do something really good for the climate. And then finally, you need somebody who actually has financing experience. And I found with Mario somebody who worked in Morgan Stanley in New York before, and then also went more than 20 years worked in the city in London. And so those four competencies are very complementary, each in a
yes.
specific domain. And with those four, we started the Green Energy Park. And the Green Energy Park is actually a completely vertically integrated value chain. And this is very important, Tina,
So
because
can you dissect that for us when you say like all of those four components coming together? Can you break that down for us so that we understand the vertical infrastructure?
yes, I mean, because to make a hydrogen economy viable, I mean, one of the reasons why a lot of those projects never get to a final investment decision is
Yes,
because they are not vertically integrated. Means that basically you need to be active in the production side, you need to be active in the distribution side, and in the consumer side.
right.
And so where we started was actually at the consumer side. So we went to companies, CEOs who need to decarbonize, and you need to understand their problems that they have, because look, if you want to buy to connect it to the gas network, it's very simple in Europe. Just make a telephone call, and you will be connected 1 week later to the gas network. This is
Right.
as simple as it is. If suddenly you say, okay, I need green molecules, then
Hmm.
it's getting much more complicated.
Yes.
So they don't have, first of all, the right maybe burners in their company who can deal with hydrogen. They don't know where to buy it, how to get it. So you need to work actually with the off taker on how to solve his problem. This is number one. And
Right.
for that, I mean, we found some typical solutions how we can bring this very difficult molecule to the gate of the companies. But then also you need to show how do you bring it to those companies? From where do you import, or how do you, I mean, what is your distribution network? And
Right.
for that, in Croatia, we own a 156 hectares import terminal in Croatia. And from
Hmm.
there, we can actually, through pipelines, through barges, through rail or trucks, we can bring it to the gate. And for a lot of CEOs, there was like, oh, so you can not only deliver us the molecule, but you also know how to bring it to us, and this is very important. And finally, you need to also show that you can produce it. And this is
Right.
the most important, so that you have the entire value chain from production, distribution to customer is very key for giving some guarantees to the CEOs. Because the CEOs, they said to me, Bart, look, for me, the most important is actually that you can guarantee the security of energy, that I get the energy that I need in quantities at the
Hmm.
location that I need it. eh,
Right.
and then, if somehow possible, also at the price that I want. But
Mhm.
price was never the first requirement of the CEOs. It's about having the security of the energy. That's most
Yeah.
important. And that's
Yeah.
why we decided to be completely vertically integrated, because when you go to the CEOs, you can say, hey, if you sign up with us, we show where you produce it, we show how we bring it to you, and we can show also, I mean, we can sign the offtake agreements. And so they have actually one deal with just one party, and that gives a lot of confidence. And this is
Mhm.
one of the strong points, and that's why you need these four complementary, because each one has skills to help us to build this completely value chain.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, makes sense. And that does make a lot of sense as to why a lot of the projects aren't getting off the ground, because they don't have all of those variables in place. And as you said, the most important variable being a consistent source of energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we felt that very clearly with the CEOs. This is their biggest worry point at the moment.
Yeah. And of course it would be, because if you have an interruption in energy, the whole game goes to hell. Yeah.
Yes, and then I mean, in this entire value chain, Tina, I mean, if we do like business as usual, like we are doing it today in the gas and oil industry, so
Hmm.
basically somebody take care of the storage, somebody take care of the distribution, somebody takes care of the extraction, somebody takes care of the offtake agreement. So you have so many different parties in it that basically, if you would do it in the same way, you need to agree with so many people in this
Yeah.
entire value chain that is almost impossible, because this is a, let's say, still an immature technology and market, and so everybody wants to put the risk on somebody else, being it
Mhm.
the one who follows him or being the one who was in front of him, but you want to put always the risk on somebody else. But if
Right.
everybody is doing it like that, it means it can never take off. And that's
Mhm.
one of the reasons. It's about the trust and being willing to take a risk, because everybody wants to put the risk on somebody else. And that's
Yeah.
many times why it doesn't work. The
Right.
second reason why it's so important is the technology choice. Because if in this entire value chain there is somebody who choose another technology, the chain
Mhm.
is broken. So you
Yeah.
need to make sure that everybody aligns around the same technology in order to make it happen. So that is why we have decided to be completely vertically integrated from the production, distribution to the end customer, in order to make sure that everybody follows the same technology and that the risk is anyway taken by us, and we discuss it then with our subcontractors. That is
Yeah.
the, and we believe that this is the way forward, that in 10 years or 15 years, that we go back to the model that at the gas and oil sector knows today, when it's very mature, probably it will be. But today it's still too early.
Mhm. Makes perfect sense. So you can't have all these cooks in the kitchen creating this, executing on this vision. And also, while it's still, in its preliminary stages, there's a few tweaks and a few, modifications as you go, obviously. And this puts accountability across the equation, making sure that no matter what happens, you have a deliverable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Interesting. So let's dive into the actual green energy park itself. What does it consist of? What does it look like? What if people are interested in finding out about it and maybe participating in some way? What Just paint the picture of the park for us.
Yeah, well, the green energy park, I mean, we're going to build different green energy parks around the world. And each green energy park will be it in the production side, be it in the distribution side, be it even in an off-taker side. So we're going to build a different green energy parks. Everybody is welcome to participate. It's an open network. This is what we always say. So if people have projects that they say, oh, that's an interesting project, we want to join. It's like a community building. We all join in and we try to make it happen. And we try to share the knowledge and the technologies and the business models that we develop in order to accelerate. Because, Tina, in 2050, we need to reach the Paris goal, 1.5 degrees. This is, we all committed, we all signed, and everybody was super happy, when we signed it. But now 25 years is remaining, and to get there, we need to install 6,000 gigawatt of electrolysis of hydrogen production, 6,000 gigawatt. So the biggest electrolyzer today in Europe operating is 20 megawatt. So the challenge and for us as humanity, or the society is enormous. In 25 years, we need to build so much electrolyzers. And so we want to help. This is our mission. We want to help to get there. We want to share our knowledge. We want to share our design so that others can help us and can work faster. You see, because if we're gonna design everything and engineer everything, and everybody has to do it again, you lose a lot of time. So by sharing, we can move faster. So we kind of want to do an open source structure so that we share with everybody. And it's a bit what Tesla did as well. Tesla shared also patents and in order to accelerate the electrical car economy. Same what Toyota did with the fuel cell technology. They also open sourced the IPs. I mean, a lot of companies did that in order to accelerate the market and to make sure that we get there. And this is also what we want to do. So an open network, sharing the knowledge, and try to accelerate the market.
Right. So for companies or organizations, regions like us here in where I am right now in Newfoundland, we have wind, we have land, we have water. We're close proximity to Europe, all of these variables. What advice do you have for regions like us to be able to connect to the Green Energy Park and to be able to access those resources and to expedite our development?
So to have a local network, what we always call a local champion is very important. So that some people locally say, look, we want to make it happen and we want to be part of the of the Green Energy Park. We would be happy to help to set up with them a Green Energy Park in Canada, and then share the knowledge, share the business model. It's all about making it happen. Look, the cake is so big at the moment. It's not a point of competition. We are at the point of making it happen first of all, and show that it can. And the only way to do it is working together. And so sharing. So if we have local companies, local champions, passionate about making it happen, and happy to share also, I think these are the type of people that we need. They give us a contact, and we're gonna work together because I believe definitely in partnerships. A very strong partnership is the only way to make it happen. Competition will come later, maybe in 10 years, but not today.
Not today, no. Well, I'm definitely interested in having that conversation because I think, Newfoundland especially is ready for that. And we do need to plug into that global collective intelligence. And we have to be super proactive. And the fact that we have so many assets to facilitate all of this, it's a green light across the board.
Exactly. It's like a green passport. I mean, this is... So you can use the logo of Green Energy Park, and it gives you the kind of a passport or a stamp that basically you are willing to share and to make it happen. I think this is important.
So being part of that Green Energy Park infrastructure, what kind of things can people expect? Like for example, safety is obviously a top priority. How do you share information, educate, and elevate the safety conversation across the board when it comes to hydrogen production?
Absolutely. So basically, we have, as I said, one of my partners in the company has built all those terminals for ammoniac and knows exactly how to deal with that. So
Yeah.
we share. I mean, we have big, let's say, database of hygiene and safety knowledge, and
Mm.
they are giving presentations and showing how you have to build things, how you have to do things. So this is, yeah, I mean, those guys have been building those things for years. They know exactly how to do that, how to implement all the safety regulations, and so they teach them, because it's true that a lot of let's say, a lot of people, they don't, I mean, if they are not into the business, they are scared in a certain way about safety, about health, and so on. And
Yeah.
you really need to explain that, and you really have to take the time, because saying just like, oh, you know, I mean, or ammoniac or hydrogen is already there for decades, it's okay, we know how to deal with that, it doesn't work, you know. Yes,
Right.
you can, it's true, factually it's true, but it's not the way how you convince people. So the way
Right.
to convince people is really sitting on the table, listen to the concerns, and address them with good and factual solutions, engineering solutions, because health and safety is actually an engineering solution. You know,
Yes.
everything exists, but you need to show to the people who raise concerns how the engineering solution is solving that particular concern they raised. This is
Right.
important. Communication, showing that it can be done. And
Mm.
somehow, also, what we do often is bringing the people to the sites. So we have already built some sites. And so when you bring people, then they are convinced, because seeing is believing, you know. And so
Yeah.
really, I mean, you cannot imagine how, I mean, how the people's expression on their faces is changing once they see and once they talk with people who are maintaining those facilities and so on, and they start talking to each other. It gives them a peace of mind moment at some point.
Yeah, they can actually see it existing in reality. So that brings us to your park in Brazil. Why did you choose that park, that location? What's there? What if I did show up tomorrow to Brazil to have a look? What would I see?
Well, at the moment, you you will see a big green field at the moment. So because we are still designing it, everything. We
Yeah.
just finished our Series A last week, and we were pretty happy with that.
Mhm.
So why Brazil, first of all? And
Yeah.
actually, Brazil is big. It's like a continent, so it's not everywhere in Brazil that it makes sense. It's mainly in a few states, and the state that we are is in Piauí. And
Piauí.
there, basically, the state has a 100% green grid. And so this is super important because that means that in principle, you can connect your electrolyzers to the electricity grid, and everything is always green. So automatically, all the hydrogen that you produce is green hydrogen. And
Interesting.
and so that means that you do not invest anymore in storage capacity and so on. So that saves you a lot of capex in terms of
Right.
storage. So this is one. Secondly, I mean, they have rivers. A lot of water is there. So you don't need to do desalination, because a lot of places in the world that they start producing hydrogen, they need to do desalination. So if you do a desalination for a 100 megawatt plant, maybe it's doable. They throw back the salt in the sea. Okay, it's okay. You can manage that somehow if you spread it very well. But if you build gigawatt scale plants, you get a lot of salt, and
Mhm.
so that doesn't work anymore. So that's why I said, look, I want to go to an area where at least I don't need to be concerned about the desalination, and because this has an environmental impact. I mean, if you throw it back in the sea, you create at some places some very salty area, which you then have the fishes going away, and you touch the marine bio atmosphere, so or environment. So you need to avoid that. That's why we looked in places where you have freshwater access, and this is what we have also in Piauí. Plus, we are almost also in a free trade zone, and that's
Right.
also very important
Yes,
because
for
all
sure.
because a lot of the equipment will need to be imported, because in Brazil there is no electrolyzer manufacturer yet, or many of the turbines or all this compression equipment, they don't manufacturing yet there. So that
Mhm.
means that you need to import them. So we can avoid import taxes. Also, the electricity that we purchase is basically tax free. So basically, you can start to make a very interesting business case, because you are in a free trade zone, and there we have access to an 800 hectares of a free trade zone. We're going to use just 310 hectares of that to build our entire plant. And the rest, we basically welcome a lot of companies that need the green molecule. And we are already in talks of some of them, that like fertilizer companies and other companies, also electrolyzer manufacturer companies and so on, to put to also build on this free trade zone next to us, that
Right.
somehow we can supply with the green energy with. And that gives a big benefit. I mean, we want to create kind of a hydrogen valley
Yeah.
around that free trade zone. So
And
that is
so
also.
what's the timeline and the milestones that you have predicted?
So, I mean, we would like to take our FID end of next year. So this would be my goal. And then we would like to start building then obviously in 2026. And we would like to start operation with the first phase, which is in 1.8 gigawatt electrolyzer phases in 2028. So that would be the start of production. And then in the course of 2028, it would be the first exports also to Europe. And what I also found very important is that a part of the energy will also be used, consumed locally in Brazil. So we don't want to export only, but also we want to make sure that local businesses also are decarbonized using this beautiful molecule.
Yeah, such an important piece of it for sure, that the whole local ecosystem is
Right.
supported as you grow. And so 2028 is your time frame. I mean, it takes, quite a few years to get all of this up and running. When I think about our targets, like 6,000 gigawatts, I just have this huge question mark. Like, how are we going to get there?
It's an enormous challenge, and this is coming back is first working all together. I think this is
Yeah.
very important. I mean, this is the only way, in my view, to get it, but also standardization. So basically, we're gonna build some standard, let's say, way of doing it, and this is what we want to share so that everybody can use the same standard. We
Mhm.
believe this is very important to get there.
Yeah.
Of course, also, I mean, having
So
governments
instead of
with you.
national standards, we'll have global standards.
Yeah, that would be very smart to do, because
Yeah.
then you can just copy. I mean, honestly, if one design is good in to be built near a big city, just imagine that you can build this design next to New York city. I think it will be good and approved for everywhere in the world. No, so I mean, why everybody wants to have different standards? It doesn't make sense. I
Right.
mean, so this is, I think, making a global standard would be very, very important.
Mhm.
And then yeah, make sure that the let's say that the authorities are part of it. And this is also makes it very different for us in Piauí in Brazil, is that actually the government is part of the project. It is very important, because you need a lot of permittings. You need
Yeah.
also the social license, and the social license means the acceptance of the people living there. So
Right.
local government can do a lot of work on that. They can really help you enormously. So this is why for us it was super important. And I would advise everybody to look in that direction, to have actually the local support.
Mhm. And you guys have succeeded in raising $30 million for your initial equity funding in all of this. Do you have advice for people who are also looking to raise those types of funds? How do they position themselves? How do they attract that level of investment? For regions like Newfoundland, what's your best advice for us to get moving on this?
Yeah, the best advice, I mean, for us, the 30 million that we raised was actually from the local investment company. So it's the investment company of the state of Piauí where we are building. And of course, they have a stake in that, in the sense that it's interesting also for their, I mean,
Mhm.
for the growth and industrialization from their state. So finding a partner like that also in your area An investment company who has links to the government, who has also uh, interest that your area is growing
Yeah.
and creating businesses. This is aligning. I mean, you need to align the interests.
Mhm.
And so if you find this kind of partner, this is important. Then you need to make sure that you have a good business model, not showing up just like, okay, I'm going to produce hydrogen. I already have my electrolyzer selected. No, it goes way beyond that. I mean, you really need to show a business model that is viable and that is credible. I
Mhm.
mean, it's not easy because nobody has done it before.
Right.
Because all the projects that you see are very small projects, and it's amazing what they did, but they all got a lot of funding. Let's be very honest. So this is the way to do it. But if you now move to let's say a viable economy that you cannot keep running on let's say on subsidies, you really need to make a credible case. So try to find good off-takers with you. I think this is very important.
Mhm.
But of course, the off-takers say also often like, yeah, but I cannot commit as long as it's not sure. So often you have this chicken and egg. And so the way actually you have to do it is really try to share the risk among many parties so that everybody feels somehow um, feels comfortable to join in. And
Right.
everybody has his natural fit. So all your partners try to see where they naturally fit into your entire business model, and
Right.
then you go and you present it to investors, and that works.
Mhm. Yeah, and structured much like your vertical system, where everybody has their piece of their contribution within the whole spectrum of the vision, and then it all comes together from there.
Exactly.
Interesting. So, and then you also had a collaboration with Baker Hughes, which was notable. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, for us, I mean, Baker Hughes was a very important milestone with the strategic partnership that we signed at the end of January.
Mhm.
Because Baker Hughes has, of course, in the oil and gas industry, a very good reputation. I mean, they are building really high quality products. They have very good engineering skills, and of course, I mean, our project is a 10.8 gigawatt project, of course, which is going to be built over the course of 10 years. So the first phase, as I say, in 28. But you will need a lot of engineers. You will need a lot of builders, and so Baker Hughes has those access of those engineers and
Mhm.
also those let's say construction workers. And so we went to see Baker Hughes last year, of course, and we did some due diligence tests with them. We understood also their interest to move into the green molecule, and because today the biggest income is all oil and gas, but
Yes.
we all know that this has to change at some point. So that means also they need to change, and so they need to partner up with partners that I mean are also visionary and have a good business model. And
Mhm.
so when we show them our business model and we show them what we want to do, they were convinced that we could be the right party for them. And also of vice versa, when we saw their engineering services they give, I mean, their turbines that they make, they are really amazing turbines they are making. And we need that. We need a
Yeah.
lot of turbines for our processes. So, I mean, we saw that they had good technology that can serve us, and they need us to build to move into the green molecule. So there was really like a natural match between the two. So we are very proud to be associated with Baker Hughes,
Mhm.
and also we're very proud. I mean, in the trust that they give to us. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see the first, let's say, product coming out,
Yeah.
because we're gonna engineer it together, because we
Mhm.
have the Green Energy Park has its own engineering services. We have a group of engineers ourselves, which are located in the Green Energy Park Engineering in Bonn, in Germany. And so
Okay.
they are actually working together with Baker Hughes on designing the entire plant layout. So the
Okay.
infrastructure and the production of ammonia, the production of hydrogen, and so on.
Super interesting. And that's really a trend, is that the oil and gas operators, all the major contractors like Baker Hughes, these companies are all diversifying at their portfolio of services and offerings and adapting to the sustainable new energy world, which is great to see, because people sort of tarnish the oil and gas companies, but that's a fallacy. It's the oil and gas, probably the majority of the oil and gas industry is going to bring in the sustainable new energy ecosystem and infrastructure.
Absolutely, they have to. I mean, it's their it's their survival. I mean, if they
Yeah.
do not enter in this space, I mean, they will be lost. I mean, we all know that oil and gas will stop one day. Probably oil first, then gas. Uh,
Hmm.
but and you see that they try, but it's not easy. It's really not easy because they have vested interests. I mean, they have spent billions of dollars into facilities, refineries, I mean, pipelines, all kind of stuff,
Sure.
and those assets that they have somehow need to be paid back. And so it is hard for many of them. You see it, for example, to Shell. I mean, if you listen to Shell, yes, they tried with hydrogen already many times, but still they are struggling to really go full speed onto the renewables. And so you see it with various of these big companies that they grow. And now, of course, with the blue hydrogen, so that means the hydrogen coming from CCS, and then you capture the CO2 and you store it. There is a
Yeah.
kind of an easier pathway for them to move to the low carbon hydrogen and to help the decarbonization. But
Hmm.
again, blue hydrogen is, in my opinion, I mean, many people might disagree, but for me, blue hydrogen is only a step in between. It's not the
Right.
final goal. The final goal is to green hydrogen. And so this is why I believe that one of the roles that Green Energy Park has is to be a kind of a disruptor. We need to disrupt this market. We need to show, this is again coming back to what I said. I want to show that the hydrogen economy is a viable economy, and we can do it already with green hydrogen. And
Hmm.
so, and this is our role, to disrupt this market and to help also to show to those vested interest oil and gas companies that it can be done, and also to push them, motivate them to go faster,
Yeah.
uh, because we need them. Because
Right.
what we should stop saying that we don't need them. This is not correct. We
Hmm.
really need them because they have a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
They have the engineering capability. They have also the financial capability. They have the workforce and so on. So
Hmm.
we need them in this
Yeah.
transition. We need
The
them on the.
research, the transfer of technology, the infrastructure, it's already readily available.
They
Exactly.
just need to get a little bit push to do it faster.
Hmm.
And this is what our role could be, because if disruptors like us can show that it can be done, maybe this motivates them as well to go faster.
Yeah, for sure. So you're not about joining a market, you're actually making a market, and you're
Right.
making a global market. So these green energy parks will essentially, in the future, if you look at the future, even over the next 5 years, you should see these parks popping up all over the place,
Correct.
right?
Yes, and this is actually what we try to do. I mean, we already discussing with many other countries around the world to establish a green energy park. Our biggest issue is, of course, the manpower and the time. We don't, I mean, it all takes a lot of time, and so
Mhm.
I have to push the brake pedal today a lot to say to people like, yes, I know you have potential, but unfortunately, I mean, we are limited. We're going to start there. We're going to start there. So this is also coming back to what I said earlier. We are welcoming partners that wants to bring their project in, because then you have already a project, yeah, and you can go faster. So, but that's our ultimate goal, is to make a network of green energy parks, and so in order to speed up the transition, to make sure that we can help each other also in terms of the green hydrogen, the molecule. If some side has a problem, the other side can help, so that you really create some kind of a community around the world of green energy parks where you share knowledge, where you help each other to realize the targets, and in case of some issues or problems, that also you can help and be ready also to share the molecules with the other sides. This is very
Yeah.
important. This is about de-risking.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And speaking of that, in terms of the world coming together, we're all going to be at the World Hydrogen Conference in May in Rotterdam. And
Yes.
I'll be there. You'll be there. I guess there'll be a lot of collective intelligence from around the globe gathering at that event. That is actually the place and the time when, you know, partnerships are formed, alliances are formed, governments get to understand what different countries are doing. It's a great place to launch green energy parks, to be able to educate people and elevate them to this vision at this point, to be able to get them excited about wanting to actually have their own green energy park. So what's happening for you at the show?
Well, this year will be extremely important year for us. So actually, we are also at the event, and we have a booth over there, a big booth. So I would invite everybody who's listening here and who goes to Rotterdam, please visit our booth, because we will make a couple of announcements, very important announcements, where basically a lot of people will suddenly understand how we're going to make it, how we're going to accelerate fast. I cannot elaborate yet because it's still a secret, and it has to be announced. I'm sorry, Tina. I would love to
No,
do it,
no
but
problem.
but I have to wait until in Rotterdam. But there
Yes.
will be very important announcements for us. This is very, very clear, and so I would definitely invite everybody to look forward for them. Follow us closely on LinkedIn as
Mhm.
well if you're not coming to Rotterdam. But also, what we're gonna do is also educate the people during in our booth. So we will guide them around. There will be a lot of people there. Our staff will be there. We will teach to the people. I mean, what is Green Energy Park? How you can become also part of it, and so on. How we can work together. So there will be a lot of explanation and education to all of them.
Mhm.
But it's a very important place for meeting. I mean, it's a place where policymakers, entrepreneurs, education, researchers, they all meet to each other, they discuss to each other, and this is actually this community that also we want to create with the Green Energy Park. On
Yes.
top of that, I will also be moderating the Latin America panel. So on the
Okay.
second day, there is also this conference, and so they asked me to moderate the Latin America panel because of obviously because I'm active in Latin America and Brazil, and
Yes.
of course I know something about the market over there, and
Mhm.
I believe it will be a very interested panel because I believe that Latin America has a big role to play in the world. I believe that Latin America can be the powerhouse of the world. I mean, where today we have, of course, the Middle East as the
Mhm.
powerhouse, but I believe now that with reduction of oil and gas, I see that Latin America can take over the energy role, the powerhouse of the world, because I mean, from the very, very beginning, they have been investing in renewables from day one. And while we had all our gas and oil infrastructure, and basically it was very hard for us to move into renewables. I mean, if you look to Europe, I mean, yes, we make a big effort, but still the renewable part of our energy mix is still very small. While
Yes.
in many countries like Uruguay as well, I mean, 100% green grid. I mean, this is amazing. So they are much further than Europe in that sense, and that's why and also it's cheaper, it's very cheap renewable, so that's why if they are playing it right in Latin America, because that's also important,
Yes.
if they put the right policies and the right priorities to some things in Latin America, I believe that they can be the Middle East of the future.
Wow. That's a big statement. Good to know. and
Yeah.
and that's an area that I wouldn't mind going to myself and having an office there. It's such a beautiful location in terms of the weather, for example.
And also the people, they are amazing. The people, I mean, really, they are so warm and welcome. I mean, they always welcome the people so much. It's really nice to work with them.
I've got to get myself down there and take a look for sure. Okay, well, that is such an informative conversation, Bart. You're a wealth of information. Is there anything else that you would like to tell listeners or to add? Where can they find you? Your website, all of the details of where they may connect with you.
Of course, I mean, people that definitely would like to learn more about the Green Energy Park can go to our website. This is www.gep Green Energy Park global.com. There you can find everything about ourselves. Also, I mean, if you would like to, seek for some job opportunities in the future, please let us know, because we will need to hire a lot of people in the future. So definitely. Or if you would like to, join the Green Energy Parks with your project, definitely let us know. I mean, there is the email addresses are on our website. Also, we have we are very active on LinkedIn, so definitely follow our LinkedIn. It's Green Energy Park Global. You will find all our activities that we are doing every week. Definitely, we will report about Rotterdam on the LinkedIn for sure.
Yes.
And then, yeah, I mean, even if you just have questions or more, I mean, about Green Energy Park, or you want to interview, or you want to write articles about Green Energy Park, or you share the passion and the idea, and you would like to become kind of ambassador, just contact us. I think this is important, because let's all work together. Again, I want to repeat, let's all work together. We need everybody. And it's amazing. I can tell you, even in Brazil, how people love Green Energy Park. It's amazing. I mean, they are so happy to work and to help us to move forward. I have never seen that before. And I think this is what it makes it special, because we create a goal, a vision of a future where everybody say, yes, this is what we need, and they are willing to help to build that future together.
Yeah, and that in itself, that positivity creates a momentum within itself, makes everything move forward. The power of intention and vision. Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Bart, for joining the conversation, because this podcast helps get that conversation out, gets everybody thinking about things globally and connecting as partners. That's our mission. And to bring in this new sustainable hydrogen world. So it's people, great minds like you, who are helping us make that happen. So thank you to you. And for our listeners, if you have a story to tell, if you're in hydrogen, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you, get you on the podcast as well. So I'm Tina Olivero, your host for the OGM podcast. Until next time, let's stay informed, stay together, work together, and stay green. Over and out.
Thank you. Bye, Tina.